Everybody, welcome to Personal Mastery Training. In case it's your first time joining me, I do 2 episodes of this podcast. One is a strategy episode where I talk about ideas and tips and experience I've had with my clients. And my goal is that I get you you can disagree, agree with what I'm posing at you, but that's what I want. I wanted you to stop and actually think about it. Even better, I'd love you to journal on it, on the idea. Because as my mentor says, one idea. You don't need 10, you need one idea. Execute on that one idea really well, and it can change your life, the direction of your life forever. And also, I also believe that we shouldn't get through life. We should get from it. We shouldn't get to our challenges because you'll end up repeating it. I think you should get from the challenge, get from life. So that's what this is all about, personal mastery, mastering you, mastering the 3-pound mass between your ears. So that's what we do at the strategy session. And the next session I do, which is today, is a masterclass. What I do is I get someone on here who I look at as crushing their personal game and doing really well, taking care of the fundamentals and doing the little things right and really crushing it. And I want to introduce you to one person that I met many years ago, and we had a pause between, and now we've picked it up again. And she's just crushing her personal game. And I will give you there's so much I could say here, but let me see who I'm talking to here is an addict. And I'm going to tell you what, she's an addict. She's addicted to winning. She's addicted to winning, and she continues to do that. So let's see where I start here. I'm going to start with the beginning. Her competitive life. In 2003, she competed in Ironman. Prior to this race, she did countless races, marathons, triathlons, you name it. And she trained 8 months for the Ironman. And in 2016, decided to compete in powerlifting. That was her first competition. She won gold at a regional, best lifter. January 2017 in Quebec, out of powerlifting nationals, a big competition. She took gold, best female lifter. And the list goes on. Silver medal for Canada, and broke her world record for a deadlift, pulling 374 pounds at 114 pounds, 52 kilos. That's a class she was in. Then she went on to, let's see here. Oh, she's a holistic nutritionist, studied holistic nutrition in 2000. So she helps her clients. This is a passion project for her. She helps her clients with their nutrition, and that's one thing she's dedicated to, is being disciplined about nutrition. Now she's a figure athlete, a natural figure athlete. She's been competing on and off since 2010, switching from different classes, physique to figure. She's won first place, gold medal, 3 nationals. And she has here in her bio, she's always falling short, but I think she falls short because someone wants to keep her in the game. And she's more addicted to the discipline and the work ethic. So I think I don't mind her not actually achieving yet, because it just keeps her hungry and even more hungry. But this year, I think she's going to surpass that. And then we've got more goals to go and more to shoot for. And then finally, her career. She's actually a police officer and continuing to climb the ladder in that profession as well. So there's no stopping. So as you heard when I said earlier, she is addicted to winning. So let's welcome Jennifer Caron. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. How you doing?
Alvin, I'm so pumped to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited
Awesome.
to get into this addiction of mine.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about it. So let's start from the beginning, where little Jennifer, because I can remember myself, there's a speaker that calls it a wandering generality instead of a meaningful specific. We were just wandering around, not really any direction. When did you start? What made you start to compete and know that winning is a thing for you, that taste of it?
So actually, I started when I was 14. I started doing aerobics classes at the gym. And I just actually fell into it through some friends that were going, that were older than me. And so I ended up getting a membership and just started doing the pump classes there. And it's the feeling after the class that I became very addicted to. So it was that feeling of like, now I know it's high dopamine and serotonin. At the time, I didn't know. And it was just that, like, I feel like I could conquer the world after a class. And um, a funny story that I later found out in my life is supposedly as a small child, in any sport that I was placed into, my mom would tell me that I would often, after I'd be done, let's say figure skating was an example of it, I would be crying on the ice, and she'd be like, "Why are you crying?" And I would say, "I want to win. I want to win." And so, that makes me laugh because at that time in my life, at that age, there were no races. It was
Right.
just kids on the ice having fun. But for
Uh-huh.
some reason, it was something that I really longed for.
Huh.
Well, I think it really took me back a long. I probably already had this in me. Well, as you now, I'm saying, as a very small child.
Uh-huh.
So just kind of discovering it through the aerobics class, I was just like, oh my God, I love this workout. So I started getting
Hmm.
magazines, and like at a very young age, started learning how to train and how to lift weights from magazines. It would be like Oxygen magazines and all these magazines at the time. And that's
Mhm.
how I self-learned to work out. And that's how I began and fell in love with training in general.
So tell me about influences. You like what were you so you fell in, you're very young, you're on the ice and you're crying because you're addicted to this feeling of winning and this. So what what's it contrast to? Where were you not winning that this became such a thing where you're so insatiable about winning, and who was your influence back then?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Um, so I guess at the time I became, I guess I would say, some, I guess, fitness magazines were like the main thing for me.
Mm,
I didn't have like a specific athlete like I was kind of like following, where I'd be like, oh, I want to be like this individual. Like Nicole Wilkins was one that was always like on my mind. I was always saying, I was like, I want to look like that. I have to look like that. And so like right away, without realizing the impact of driving into my subconscious mind, I was always driving it into my subconscious mind
mhm,
by envisioning and wanting to be that person or that individual that in that fitness magazine that I'm looking at so badly that I almost like cry. Like that's how bad I
mm,
wanted it. So
mhm,
I noticed that I've always sort of been like that in everything that I do. And I'm always looking at like, okay, well, and this could be a bad thing. I recognize, okay, I accomplished this. Let's move on. Let's go to something else. Like rather than staying in it and becoming even better at it, I think that's where I failed myself, was that I was like, cool, I did this. Now let's move on to a different sport, or let's move on to something else. And I did that a lot throughout my life. I moved and bounced around for the
mhm,
challenge because it gave me such fulfillment when I would win.
mhm,
It would make me feel, I would say, like a somebody,
mhm,
or kind of like, look at me guys, look what I've accomplished,
mhm.
and maybe that's like figure in my life that I was missing at that time.
Right.
So it kind of goes deep for me, whereas like
Mhm.
I wanted that, like, confirmation that I was like really good in something, right? Kind of,
Right.
hey, like, guys, look, I won, right? So
Yeah.
that's totally different for me now, but that was my drive back then.
Right then. And was there anyone that you're aiming for that, like, that pushed you, that influenced you, that you didn't want to be like, or did is there something you were, so we get motivated from two things. One, toward, I want to move towards something, or I want to get away from something. Which one of those you think motivated you the most? Getting away from a situation, like I didn't want to be the skinny kid, I don't want to be the, la la la, or I want to move, I see the vision and I want to move to that. What do you think
Um,
drive you most?
yeah, that's, so I would probably say, like, for me, I guess, there were certain things in my life, I guess, as a kid that I feel like I lacked, and
Mhm,
my motivation was mainly wanting to be someone or be something in my life to
mhm,
prove that I can, have an accomplished life, and be successful in things, as well as be proud of, an upbringing. As you would know, a lot of us kids have grown up in a divorced family, or without realizing, abandonment issues sort of come out and this and that. And so I think that basically was part of my drive to get out of, was just to be like, no, you're not going to get sucked back because poor me, I went through this or that. It was more like, you know what, drive to be somebody, drive to be successful. And when I got a little taste of that, I was just like, here I go, and I've had setbacks. There's no doubt about that, right? But in everything that I do that drives me to move forward, I always have a learning experience, right? So if I was not successful in that, I'd be that poor pity me there for a little while, and I'd be like, forget it, this isn't for me. But man, I really have something in me that just would not let me give up on something. So even if I chose to let it go, it's like something that just keeps like, going round and round and round in my head and my body. That's just kind of like, are you going to do it? Are you going to go back to it? What about now? What about now? Right. So it's like, I can't let it go. So ultimately come back around and then, go at it again. So I think that's kind of been the cycle of my life, in and out, in and out. Ultimately now I just like to be in it and just like take it as far as I can go. Right. So
I love that. In the arena, you want to be in the arena. Despite whatever happens, you're in the game. So if someone does, so this is what I wanted to get to. This is what I wanted to dig out, is the idea that if some kid coming up feels like, they're not important, or they're yearning to be successful. Now that you have achieved so many things, what would you tell someone who is probably struggling with it, say, this idea of feeling worthy? And now that you've achieved and looking back now, what advice would you give to your younger self about the journey itself? About, what did you take away from now looking back?
Yeah, I think having a mentor is key. Like I found that I, didn't reach out to the right people. I kind of just went about my own life, and maybe just never really thinking I was good enough, but yet still managed to, put myself through the fears and getting through it. I think that would be what I would recommend, is just nothing, as we had discussed previously, is limitless. Like you could literally do anything you want to, but why we don't do it is because we're afraid of, what our friends are going to think as a kid, and maybe our parents, or maybe, just the school or kids at school or whatnot. So finding someone who is, my advice is finding someone who is where on the path that you want to go is key. Because if you surround yourself around people who are quote unquote losers, or, will sort of like put you down and never push you to be the best that you can, then ultimately that's going to be your surrounding, right? So I recommend, like you said, like, you asked me who is that person that I sort of looked up to growing up, and I think I kind of went about it my own way in later in life that I find that. But I would recommend now is just look at that person who you look up to and reach out to that person and say, hey, like, how did you get here? What was your journey? Do you have any advice for me? Not be afraid to make that connection, because we're all afraid of like, oh, what if he's going to think, oh, who's this stupid kid calling me, or why are they? And it's never like that, right? Like the other person on the other end, when you call them, they're like, wow, that's so nice that this person thinks this about me, no matter how old you are, right? When I get a call like that, you're really motivating me. I'm like, man, this is why I do what I do. So that's pretty much what I recommend, is just stick with people that are on your path, and watch how you grow when you surround yourself around people who are like-minded and who are driving you to be better. So that would be my advice, is just get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I love it. And it's the same metaphor I wrote in my book about crabs in a barrel. The thing about it is, when you're hanging out with your crowd, whoever your crowd is, and they don't want to see, if I'm hanging out with you, you and I are hanging out, and we've become familiar with each other over years, and we're besties, and you now come to me and say, I want to level up my game. What you're going to force me to do is look at my own game and go, geez, I don't want to level up my game. So I'm going to do what I can do to pull you back to where I'm comfortable. Because your leveling up makes me uncomfortable. Because I have to look at me now and go, should I be doing that too? Well, I'm not going to do that. Change sucks. it's best for me to pull you back, give you little nudges like, hey, don't forget who you are, man. It's, or it's dangerous out there. I know somebody who did that and it didn't work out, or, what I mean? So yeah, it's so huge. That's a huge nugget, is if you want to level up your game and you don't want to, like you said, I think if I could read you right, what you're saying is you would have, if you could do it again, you get a shortcut by going to somebody who's already walked that path.
Yes.
And not be so stubborn to do it your own way.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a stubborn individual, Alvin. I won't lie.
But you know what? It's your superpower, and it can be your kryptonite too.
Yeah.
But it is your superpower. That's why you've gotten all the successes you've had. But now, see, with some wisdom and with age, you start to go, you know what? I can keep beating that wall down, or just get somebody who knows how to do the bricks, get someone who knows how to take the bricks out in the right way.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And where someone can actually put something in your head that you never envisioned could happen.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm limited in sort of like what I believe I can do. And then when someone says, hey, you could be this, all of a sudden now that's open in my brain. And now I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do now. Right. So it's having people also like put things in your head of what you are capable of doing. Because we do limit ourselves that way, right?
100%, because we're limited by where we think we can go, which is, when you make goals, it's tough to make goals from where somebody is right now. Because when you're right, somebody listening, whether it be in money or in your physical body or somewhere, we're limited to what we believe we can earn. Meanwhile, someone out there is earning 10x what you're doing, but somehow we're limited to what we've seen, people who've been around, we're limited to our experiences. So huge one there. And the other thing I take away from you is this: if you can because I wouldn't want to get rid of your push that you have, this motivation, this dog on a bone, I'm going to get it done. See, I wouldn't kill that, because that's your natural way. But what I would do then, what I'm getting from you is so everybody listening out there, take your superpower that you already have, whatever that is, whatever it is that is your thing, that's your strength, take it. Then you add it to, like, if Jen takes her visualization, her enthusiasm, her superpower of motivation or superpower of drive, and you take that with someone who can guide that power in the right direction and unleash it, you're going right to the top, right, of whatever it is that you do. So don't kill what you're great at, but just enhance it by it's almost like I remember having a high-end car, and I took it to the gas station, and the person it was a service gas station, so they put it in for me. And the kid who was pumping the gas didn't know it needed super unleaded, and he puts in the leaded, and so I'm driving, I'm wondering why I can't take off. Like, I'm pressing the gas, it's just nothing happening because he put in the wrong fuel. So it's almost like that you remind me of, is this: if you put the right fuel and guide you, it's gone, right? So that's the big thing I get from it. Don't kill what made you great, but just knowing how to guide your superpower.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So unbelievable.
And you are that person, Alvin. I'll tell you straight up. You really, you just, you're an awesome individual, but just the way you have the ability to, see potentials in people, and then just letting them know slowly, like, hey, this is you next year. And it's like, I'm going after that. Right. And it's been amazing. So,
and what's great for me is even more exciting for me is I can say this to anyone, but it's them believing it. Right. That's where I am most excited. When I get someone who actually believes what I'm telling them, because I can say this to I see it in everybody. Everybody has their thing, and I love to bring out their thing. But I can't make you do it. I can't do it for you. But if you're driven that way and we meet together, it's going to be fuel and fire. So it's going to be unbelievable. Now let's talk about another superpower that I know you have, is goal setting goals, and your ability to tell us some of your steps and processes in setting goals, because there's one I see that you do that elite people do, is you write your goals down and rewrite and revisit them. Because a lot of people will write a goal down, close their journal and never look at it again for 10 years. And they go, oh man, boy, I wish I would have done that. Look, I wrote this down like 10 years ago. I didn't even look at it again. But you have this ability to be so, take care of fundamentals. Tell me about when did you start setting goals, writing them down, or even just your process?
So I actually have always been doing this, but I did not know until I would say maybe end of last year that it actually was the reason. I always thought like, oh, you're just lucky, or you won this one or whatnot. But now I realize the connection that I guess the reason I started off writing my goals and envisioning it was because I love the feeling so much of envisioning it and being in the moment of actually winning it. So that itself was my addiction right there, was feeling the feelings as if I was, let's say we're going to use figure as an example, on stage, of, envisioning myself in that center box, envisioning like the judges just watching me, envisioning, the crowd. My mom was always yelling, so she's one of them, you're winning, you're this, you're that, or whatever. And that feeling I would get inside would be just so almost like as if I'd finished like a competition in itself, or the endorphins I would get after a really good workout. So it would set my day, that would set my entire day to be on a level of like pure like joy, and I'd be happy and I'd be driven. So that was my addiction from that. And little did I know that it actually would follow through. But when I would win, I would just think, okay, you won because you put in the work, or it was good luck or whatever. But I never made the connection of the two, which is really odd to me, because ultimately you're writing it out and it's happening. I would read a lot of books about that, right? Just the power of the mind, and the power of just making sure that you set your goal in your head before succeeding and all that. But just recently, after my last competition, where I wrote out everything that exactly happened, and then listening to you with your podcast, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I actually physically wrote out exactly what happened. And like, it was very a moment for me. So yeah, it's weird how I didn't make the connection at first.
I cannot say that this segment alone is money for everyone. Listen, they say you can't hit a target you can't see. Okay. And there's so many nuggets. I'm gonna just unpack a few of them. First of all, Jen, when she creates her goals, when she's visualizing, she brings in a few things. She can hear her mom. So when you're visualizing, the brain doesn't know real from fake. It does not know real from fake. It can't tell, because we make up our life anyways. How many times is perceptions completely wrong? You thought somebody said something, you heard something, you thought you saw something, you thought you smelt something, you thought. All our senses kind of fool us if we don't watch it. So if it's built to be faulty, this is why, being a police officer, a lot of court cases get thrown out because witnesses aren't right. Am I right? They didn't see it, They didn't hear it. So we fool ourselves. We make our lives up. So why don't we make up a great life? Why don't we make up? Because you see, there's the other part of that. Humans are prone to creating lives that are horror flicks. Because we have this affinity for bad news, because it's protection. It's protecting us. We are prone to look for bad news. That's why bad news sells. And that's why people love shows that are trashy, because it sells. Good news shows don't often make it, because people are like, oh, come on, right? We love that. So we have an affinity for it. So you're creating this, and you brought up dopamine, serotonin, you brought up so many hormones that help to enrich this whole feeling of being excited before it's even here. So Jen's saying so many things. She brings in emotions. And emotions, by the way, is a fuel we need. There's no use having a vision without being excited about it. 2, you must feel it.
Yes.
3, she brought in, I can hear my mom. She brought in a feeling of she's looking and seeing the audience. She's seeing herself in the box. There's so many nuggets here, everybody listening. This is how you step up your visualization and your goal setting game. And the final thing I want to pull from what Jen said, so many things. Success leaves clues. I also, when I was competing, used to think that when I lost, it was random. When I won, it was random. I didn't know there was a structure to winning. Okay. And the structure is this. Whatever you did when you win, repeat it. Your brain, see, when you got excited over winning, all of your wins, if you were to stop and go, what did I do? So my brain, that day when I won, it got charged, it got excited, it got motivated. Now, to bring that back, I have to do everything I did that day to bring that feeling back. So if you just randomly show up to every competition, wake up, arrive, you'll have random results. But if you put yourself in that state, eat the same food you did, I tell you, some of the greatest people are so ritualistic about their lives. They put the sock on the left, this one on the right. And why do they do that? Because the brain thinks it's game day again. Every time you do that action, it's game day, and you rise to the level of that game. So there's so many things, Jen, about what you said that you're doing perfectly right. Here's going to be your only problem. Dreaming bigger. Dreaming big.
Bigger, yeah.
It's going to be scary because you can do anything you want, which is the scary part about this goal setting.
So interesting this time around, what I've done is I thought to myself, okay, you want to be a pro, then you need to do everything that the pros are doing. So I started following I've been following a lot of like, Sid, the most recent one with the Olympia, she won figure class. Just what a beauty she is. I mean, her presence, her look, her physique, like her muscle structure, the way she moved, her confidence on stage. I mean, like, I'm just obsessed with her, right? But I actually messaged her and asked her some questions, and this girl responded right back, and I was just like, yeah, that's what I mean about following people. And I asked her questions and she gave me answers, and I was like, all right, this, my coach is a high level coach. I'm working with him off season, and previously I wasn't working with a coach off season. And I know that's key. I do know that now. It's not like, oh, let's just see what I do off season. No, you have to act like a pro to be a pro. These pros, they're working 24 hours, all the time, fueling and recovery and supplements. So I'm stepping in their shoes. I'm making some contacts in terms of, what they're doing and how they do it. And I'm going to follow suit.
Oh, so much. Okay. So the next two that I have, I'm going to repeat it again. Success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. So Jen says, okay, I am not where I want to be yet in competition, but I'm going to look at somebody who's already there. I'm going to model everything they're doing. And by the way, here's a little tip for everybody. When I work with my clients, I often tell them to develop identities. Because what you can do with identities is I can watch Jen and I can watch everything about study Jen. And I go, okay, how's she standing? She's standing this way. And how's she breathing? She's standing this way. When she's on stage, what is her look? What's her smile? What's her body language? And I can actually imitate you. And what that will do is that will bring your physiology affect your psychology. So if I assume your body posture, if I literally copy you, I'm going to start feeling the way you do, because it's going to create the same sense in me. So you're saying I'm going to follow whatever they do. They're trained this much. I'm going to do that. They're going to do, basically, you're going to have the same results. You're going to have the same results. And I wrote here, next thing I wrote here is be, do, have. For whatever you want to become, you must be it, do the things they do, and you will have what they have. So if they get up at 5 a.m., guess what? You can't get up at 9 a.m. because they're already 4 hours on you getting up. So you have to be, do, and have. If you're not willing to do that, then stop wishing to be in that position. If you're not willing to sacrifice what they're willing to do, then stop doing that. So I love that. So where are you going next? Like what's next for you? So, in your profession, you're crushing that. You're going beyond, we know that. And next, when you win, what do you see? What's your big hairy audition? So I'm gonna write your eulogy.
Okay.
Write your eulogy. So Jen is now, I'm reading about Jen. What did you do once you win your pro card? What's next?
Oh yeah, so I think you're probably the one who put this in my head, Alvin, because I'm pretty sure when I went to your office,
Yeah.
I got your book, and you said to me, "I'll see you at the Olympia."
Okay. All
And then
right.
I was like, right in my head that went, and now I'm like, "You're gonna qualify for the Olympia," and
Done.
that's just sort of like
All right.
bigger and greater, and like you said, just what is the harm, and that's sort of what I've understood is like, what is the harm in just believing that you can do greater things? I mean,
Mhm.
ultimately, you can only, if you don't try, which is probably the one thing that eats me up the most, is if I
Mhm.
give up on a goal, my body just, it's like I'm very lifeless. Like there'll be a
Mhm.
time in my life where I feel like something's missing, and
Mhm.
I'm not myself, right? And
Mhm.
it'll drive me mad until I actually physically pick a goal and move forward, and all of a sudden my
Yeah.
energy changes like right away. So that I understand with myself, and that I need to always continue to be bigger and better.
Yeah.
So pro card, there's naturals, national August 5th, and there's the Ben Wider natural show that's hopefully I can compete there as a pro,
Mhm.
and then the overall win would be that in for qualifications. So yeah, that's what I'm spinning, that's what I'm writing every day, it's what I'm envisioning.
Mhm.
So let's just see
So,
what happens.
well, we know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. It's been said, it's been put in the universe, it's going to happen. Now, how many people before you have won? Because if you can win once, guess what? You can win twice.
Yes.
There's three, there's four, and that's what now you'd love to meet Missy. Have you met Missy yet when she
I
was in Canada?
haven't. I follow her. I
Okay,
love her whole story. I mean, from
you two are,
having won her Olympia, and then having to reclaim it, and just
yeah.
watching her whole journey, it's just been amazing. It's actually very motivating.
Well,
And I
when
think,
when she comes here, we're hooking up.
okay, yeah, and I'll tell you, Alvin, I'll tell you what's been the part in me that's kind of um stopped me from dreaming bigger, is that I just didn't think as a natural athlete that I could make it to that stream.
Mhm.
And that was
Mhm.
something I'd already sort of put in my head, like
Mhm.
you can't be as good as them, and you
Mhm.
are limited because of your
Yeah.
structure and this and that. So that
Yeah.
that was something I was just had already just done to myself that made me stop where I
Yeah.
stopped. So I am working hard at removing that from my
Yes.
head.
Yes. And here's the thing that I would say to you on that level. If we shoot for the moon, okay, moonshot, and you miss the moon, guess where you end up? We all heard this before, I think. You end up with the stars. So even if you turn pro, you get to the Olympia stage, and we're not quite there yet. Guess where you are? You're on the Olympia stage.
1,000%. I
You're
mean,
on the
that
Olympia
alone,
stage.
you have to just tell yourself, like, girl, you made it, right? Like,
You're on the stage.
yeah. Oh
And you know
yeah.
what? Leverage that. And we can leverage that. And then we can deal with that next step when we get to that Olympia stage. At the end of the day, pro card, Olympia stage, and deal with things we won't bring. There's no use of your energy bringing in obstacles that have not even been at our doorstep yet. Let's
Well,
knock it
that's
out.
absolutely, and that's a huge part too. Is that's what we do as humans? We protect ourselves.
Yeah.
For lack of disappointment, lack of failure. What people will think of you, all that stuff, which is just amazing. That it's a protective, but yet
Yes.
such a negative aspect to our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's deal with that in the right amount of energy, if it even happens, at the right time. Right now, in this moment, you need to get ready to win the pro card.
Yes.
Then after the pro card, we need to use that moment to get ready to win the Olympia. Then
Right.
at that moment, we get ready to do. So in each moment, we just take care of the moments. We won't bring the potential roadblock into today,
Right.
stopping us from moving forward. So we're just
That's
gonna
good
get it.
advice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're just
because
gonna go
obviously
get
if
it.
we get too ahead of ourselves, then we start crumbling, right?
And we're killing our now.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
Exactly.
killing the
Right.
now.
All
Yeah.
right, the now, August 5th, Natural Pro.
We crush that one.
Yeah,
Then what's next? We crush that one.
right,
Then what's next? We keep crushing the nows. And
right.
then with each now, guess what? All of a sudden you wake up, you're on the stage of the Olympia. You know,
That'll be a moment, I'll tell you
so
that. But they're all
awesome.
moments, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So out there, the last thing I'll close with, and by the way, I'll say this before I say that, you just met someone who's got the same work ethic as you. I connected you with someone who's got the same mindset and work ethic as you. Maddie, right? My assistant.
Oh yeah,
She's
her
got the
and
same.
I just love her. We're so similar.
Yeah.
She doesn't know this, but at some point, because she's got that dance background, at some point
Uh-huh.
I'm like, girl, you got to teach me some moves. Right
Uh-huh.
after we're done our training session, we're gonna do a little dance,
There
and
you
then
go.
walk. But
Well,
she doesn't know that yet. But
we
now she
won't, but
knows.
we won't tell her. We won't tell her.
We won't
We
tell
won't tell her.
her.
Yeah. So, okay. So last question is, you have someone out there who's unmotivated. It's January. What the time we're recording this is in early Jan. They're unmotivated. They find it difficult to get off the couch, go after their goals. Maybe fear's gotten them. What parting advice would you say to someone who's finding it difficult to move forward or even get going consistently? What's the when you think back, what's the juice that you can give them?
Okay, so for me, the big thing is that you have to give a person a winning feeling of accomplishment. And once they get that tiny feeling of accomplishment, that will grow into something bigger and then bigger. So start small. So, what is a small goal that you have? Perhaps it's going to the gym 3 times a week, or perhaps it's learning to play the guitar, or whatever it might be. And you have to start very small, because if you give big goals that are overwhelming, uh, the the percentage of them actually sticking to it is, I find, very minute. But if they learn the feeling of accomplishment and think, holy crap, I did that, I set my mind to it, I did it, and starting small, then the next project that they come with, they now know, their subconscious knows, I can get through this and not quit. And that's the key, right? If you quit, then you're just teaching your subconscious mind right away that you don't have the ability to do it, whether it be work or gym goals or relationships. So you have to be able to follow through with the goals that you set. So let's start small so that you can accomplish those goals. And then once you've accomplished it, now you can, be proud of what you've done and say, okay, now what can I do next? And then your goals can then become bigger and bigger, but start small and follow through. That's the key.
Huge, huge. Again, another one, Jen. It's so if you are beating yourself up, and remember something, human beings, we're famous, or we have an affinity to look for what's wrong.
Yeah.
If you had a fantastic day today, 10 things went right. If one person gave you a bad comment, guess what you focus on?
It's crazy.
One.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, 10 people have told you you're amazing, but nope, that one, I got to please that one.
Yeah.
Right. So knowing that, that's our affinity. Jen says, go back, and there's something I do with my clients also called your you done good list. So develop a list of things like your bio right now. If you're ever feeling down, go back and look at your bio. Because if you go back, somebody, I don't care if you won Little League, you won a medal in Little League World Series, or you at school you have a medal for winning first or third. Take one win, Jen saying, build on that win, because in that win, there's things you learned. There's things that were happening in that win, how you felt, how you showed up that day. There's win. Take those wins and you think about them. As I said, you shouldn't get it through challenges. You should get from it. Because if you get from it, you start to go, man, what happened that day? No, you know what? I woke up excited. I didn't watch any negative news. I ate a good breakfast. And so there's things you did. Do it again. So Jen's saying, take one win. Yep. Step on that. Use that as your next step. And then the other win. And if you keep bringing in these wins, it becomes where you train you hack your normal affinity to negativity, and you start thinking about what's right. And you start using those wins and you wins. And so Jen, and the other thing I point out is Jen has taken wins in this category and she puts it in this category, or career, she puts it in over here. Jen's putting wins in different areas because all you do one thing is how you do everything. So, you're crushing it. So
Thank you.
Awesome. I love it. There's so much there. So Jen, I appreciate you again. I hope everybody, re-listen to this and really pick out the nuggets from someone who has walked the walk. You can read her bio. We'll put it in the show notes. And she's walked the walk. She's success leaves clues. And Jen, I want to thank you again. And we're going to look forward to when you hit that Olympia stage, you're coming back on again.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good incentive, Alvin. And thank you for being you. You honestly really driven me.
Well, I can't be me, all of me, without a person like you to help facilitate and to show me my work matters. So I appreciate you too. So
thank you.
All right, everybody. So why I do this. I'm super passionate, even more today in this world today, where I find I'm going to go to Jesse Jackson's quote back in the day in the 80s or 90s. He had a quote. He said, kids are shooting dope in their veins because no one's shooting hope in their brains. And in today's world, there's not a lot of people out there shooting hope in anybody's brains today. It's all pessimistic and between politics, war, and everything. So we do this, Jen and I get guests on to help shoot hope in your brain, because with hope, you can make change and you can feel excited about life again, because life is what it is. And we've gone through a lot. We're actually living if you look at the times today, it's a great times today. There's a lot more freedom, less, we care about each other, but we're hacking our brains, caring about each other, empathy, and it's improving as we go along. So Jen, thank you again. Everybody, if you like what you heard here, like, subscribe, share this podcast, and we will talk to you soon. Jen, thank you again.
Thank you, Alvin.
All right. Peace and love, everybody.